Hey everyone, welcome to An Eventful Life with Brad Cox and Shane Buzzer. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane.
An Eventful Life is the podcast where we take you on a journey through eventful lives of inspirational event industry leaders from around the world.
That's right. We'll be sharing their stories, impact, and insight into the complex world of events. So if you like these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your mates.
This is An Eventful Life. Hello Buzz, how are you mate?
I'm good, Brad. How you doing?
Yeah, all right, another fine week in your world.
It is, yeah. We've got a Bucks party coming up this weekend. I'm pumped for that.
Oh, look out. That's dangerous.
Yeah, but
particularly when you're in events.
Yeah,
Are you organising this Bucks party?
Oh, kind of. It'll be slightly scaled down. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the show. And we're 3 episodes in now. Do you feel we're getting into a bit of a groove now?
Absolutely. Season 2's gone off to a flyer, which is amazing. And thank you to everyone who's listening who has supported us along the way. It's been amazing, and we're back and at it in full force and back on social media.
We are, yep, which is great. It's good just to have that presence again. We obviously went quiet for a while, and back on socials, the feedback was put something on your walls. So we've done that now.
Yep. Yeah, we're working on that at the moment. The studio is currently in renovation around us at the moment in a good way, which is great. But so Instagram, TikTok, our new YouTube channel's up and running. So anyone who's listening who's not subscribed, please go and subscribe. It'll make all the world of difference for us. But
tell us who you want to hear from as well. Like
absolutely.
Get in touch with us on the socials, and yeah, we'd love to hear some feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're fresh off Frank Ciccone from last week. What a story that was.
Incredible.
His venture.
Just incredible.
Unbelievable guy that just, small business in the inner suburbs and has blown it out of the water. So, but we thought we'd continue the venture down, the niche sectors this week, and the industry with today's guest. I need to be serious for a moment because it's, today's guest is sitting directly opposite me and keeping a careful eye on me as she always does. From humble beginnings as a venue functions manager to now one of the most resilient and hardworking business owners in the event industry for over 17 years. She's the go-to person for every major event, now has offices across Eastern Australia, and has recently won Australian Event Awards Supplier of the Year. She makes linen cool and is always the bundle of energy to any team just when you need it, generally during the late hours of bump in or bump out. She's direct, honest, passionate and dedicated. Would you please welcome Allie Hammet? Welcome, Al.
Thanks, Brad.
There you go. Welcome to our little podcast.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
He's
I know I
very
say
good
it every
at this.
week, but yeah.
No.
Does it give you a little perk up to hear all that?
Yes, and a reality boost, yeah. Yeah.
That's right. So now, talking of like bright and colourful,
Yeah.
You're sitting here all dressed up. I know the listeners can't see you, but you're certainly the life of the party again today.
Wearing patchwork with embroidered seagulls.
Did you make it yourself?
No, I did not. I'm not that talented.
Sticking to the linen. So,
Yeah.
which is where we wanted to sort of start today's episode, and that is with your business of table art, which is, it is very niche, but you've had it for a long time, 17 years, as I said, and it's been most of your professional life. The model of table linen and table design, what provided you the inspiration and drive to set up such a business?
I was working for Harry the Hirer, and I was managing table linen at Harry's, and I loved it, and I loved Harry's, and after a few years I got made redundant, and I had been client relationships manager at Harry's after linen. And I sat on the couch listening to Oprah, and she told me that I was supposed to work in an industry that I loved and with a product that I loved. And I'd always collected fabrics, and I loved events, so I started experimenting with different fabrics for the events industry. And at the time, the whole industry had only had organza and damask, which I'm sure you two know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Buzz is looking at me with a
No
smile.
idea. No idea.
That's why we come to you, Ellie.
Yeah, thanks. So I experiment with upholstery fabrics and dress materials, and luckily they washed because we have to launder. We have to check all our fabrics for colour stain removal. I put curry on it, oil, texture, wine if I want to waste some at the end. Yeah, I know, just the drops at the end.
Yeah.
It's okay, Shane. And wax, and just make sure that all those things come out, because if I'm going to spend
That's fascinating.
thousands of dollars on fabrics.
Department of the R&D department of table linen.
I love that.
Literally in my kitchen at home, and just
Of course.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
it's not going to survive.
yeah.
If you need some help with that, I've got a couple of kids. They can spill anything on anything.
It's amazing how that works. So I pre-test all the fabrics to see if it will survive, and luckily it did. And
how many did you start with?
I started with 6 fabrics, and I took it to my wonderful network that I had gathered over the years in the events industry prior to that. And one of my first events was the Prime Minister's Olympic dinner with Peter Jones. All people like Peter Jones and Bruce Keeber and Lee Clark, there's just a lot of people who I'd known for many years who just, they wanted to support young business, and particularly, which I was very lucky with, young female business.
And I guess, did they obviously know of your, the skill sets that you developed? You said at Harry's, you worked specifically with linen and those client relationships. So there was, am I right in saying there was a trust there to bring a new business into their major events?
Yeah, and there's so much pressure, I think, to bring new product into particularly Melbourne because of how many major events we have. So our clients want something new every year. They don't want to do something that they've done before. There's a lot of pressure to bring that new product out. And so they were pretty excited to see a new product and a new business in the industry that was enthusiastic and wanted to do something with them. Anything.
Good on
anything.
you.
Did you feel some of that pressure in the early days and those early events?
No, I just loved it.
Just loved it.
Loved it.
Backed yourself?
Yeah.
There's a message to the listener and anyone who's starting out. Just back yourself.
Back yourself.
Trust your gut.
And test curry and wine with your product.
Yeah. I mean, I remember buying in about $30,000 worth of pure linen from some, I don't know, French, some Riviera. And the first Indian wedding ruined every single tablecloth,
no.
And I'd learnt at Harry the Hirer that, I hope this isn't a trade secret that I'm giving away, but Rick's rule was three and it's free, so 3 hires until you cover your cost. I don't know if that's his still one, but we were about 5 to 9. So fabrics are more expensive, particularly going down the way that I went, the higher quality fabrics. So it takes a longer time, but all the money any sales that I brought in, I then put back into new stock, and I was waitressing at night times for Food and Desire at Carousel, so I could guilt them into using me
Your table
for the events.
You were working /networking.
Yeah, I was. And also Dave Devney through Ready, Set, Go, so I was doing Shell events, and so I was working with corporates as well. So I was basically just any money I could get in just to buy new stock and run it from home.
And the joys of starting a small business, as we are all well aware of it.
We all know that, yeah.
Not so glam.
Hey, we worked together on a number of events over the years, but particularly the Australian Open, I wanted to reference early on. Your standards in terms of the level of detail are extraordinary. The precision of placement, cloth length, colour mix and balance in an environment matched with lighting, the precision of cutlery and glassware buzz and layout and spacing is
He was
unbelievable.
telling me story. What's wrong with you? This is amazing.
Nuts. So absolutely. So
I have issues.
but many people would think this level of detail is ridiculous. But having seen your work and you work your magic, the results are incredible and the detail does matter. But my sort of question is why? Why is it important to you and what drives you to do it?
I think a well-set table says how professional the person is who designed it. And so if I sit down at a table and the cutlery is set wrong, I'm like, these people don't have their shit together. If I get photos back and the chairs aren't straight, I'm like, that's a small thing. If someone can't straighten a chair for a photo, because it's all about the Instagrammable photo now, then what other stuff-ups did they do? Because that's a really simple thing. And I think the art of setting the table correctly with the cutlery straight and, an inch in from the table edge and going in the right direction, I think that is a skill that is being lost. And because we're not all sitting at the table anymore, and I learnt my skills originally from working at the Hilton in banquets at the age of 18, and Karen Mossma teaching me how to set a table correctly. And so that's very important to me.
It's a skill set that just not many people have. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to have it. I wouldn't have a clue. So, but yeah, it's not for everyone. So I guess there's only so much you can do, but I get that it would be so important to you. And do you have to just kind of pull away a bit and go, okay, I've done my bit, done what I can?
I can't be at all the events. We've got, I think, 49 events this week. So I can't be at them. I can send table instructions, how to set the table, what tablecloths I've allocated to what floor plan. So I try and give as much information as I can because I know that it makes sense to me, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to the venue setup staff. They've just got different size tables and different size tablecloths and they don't know what goes on what. So that is important to me to provide that information, going that extra mile to give them that attention to detail.
And I guess with what Brad was telling me and the overview he just provided to our listeners, the Australian Open as an event has just elevated itself to a huge level in the last 10, 15 years. And you, I guess, were part of that in making everything so meticulous and the attention to detail and just make it this world-class event that it is. Could you see that happening at the time?
Yeah, I don't know how long Gary Charters worked designing the corporate event spaces.
He'd be 15 to 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's an amazing man. If you want to follow anyone, Chard International. Gary's an amazing designer. He gets very out there designs, and I was employed to basically rein him in to make it practical.
We'd bring Allie in literally Gary has all these crazy ideas and Allie makes it happen and just makes it real.
Just going, you can't set the table like that. You can't have the cutlery setting going at an angle into the middle of the round table because there's no room for a plate. And I get so many clients a florist will cover the table in florals, but then no one's asked anyone whether or not there's any shared plates from the caterer. So all those florals have to be taken off. So if it's not practical, then it's a waste of money, really.
What do you think when you walk into other events or venues and you look at the tables and they're run-of-the-mill and quickly laid out by the floor team and, with relatively little care and thought from an appearance point of view? Does it frustrate you?
Yes. Yes, Brad, it does. Look, I think venues are really struggling with staff and I completely understand that. And I try and straighten things as best I can and I'll mention some things to a functions manager, but I'm very aware that, you can't push the boundaries. Like they're doing the best job they can.
And so it's what you just mentioned there about the centerpiece or, the florals or whatever it may be and the practicality. For any young events person listening, that's probably something to take on board. Really give that some thought when you are setting a table. Make sure that people will be able to serve their food and it still looks good and all those things.
I remember working on a wedding that had the centerpiece towers like a metre tall and the florals up on top of it. But the stand was so wide that you actually couldn't have anyone sitting either side of the stand. So there was like 8 people and then a 50 centimetre gap to have this stand and then another 8 people like on a long table. It looked ridiculous because no one had actually asked, how wide's the table? And I get so many people saying, I want the table linen to go to the floor. Well, what's the dimensions of the table? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, can I only do so much then, mate?
Yeah, and again, it comes back to level of detail at the end of the day in every aspect of what you're delivering. To your kudos, I've only ever seen one other person do it and they work internally for an organisation and it's a real skill set that you have and a niche and, you've helped a lot of people along the way and I think that's why you've been, such the go-to person for particularly those major events. You just mentioned a minute ago weddings. They make up a lot of your business but are a very different approach. What are some of the similarities and differences between your work with, your wedding clients and your corporate events and your major events?
We would be 50% weddings and 50% made up of parties, corporates and major events. Weddings are a lot more work. So we would average at least one face-to-face styling appointment in the showroom. Ideally, they would like to come in on a Saturday versus Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, which would be better for me, obviously, because we're working on the weekend. I know that surprises people. It just has them stumped. They also
it's a lifestyle job. It's not 9 to 5. It's the first thing I say to anyone who wants to get into this industry.
Yeah. Also, I would say 40 emails would be the average for a wedding, where a corporate will send me one email saying I need 60 tables of this cloth on this date, bang, done. So much easier. And also weddings have a lot of amendments and, I've changed my colour scheme and, can I come back in and re-look at that? I think there's a lot of pressure. I think the wedding industry has is renowned for there's one price for weddings and one price for corporates, and I don't particularly do that. It would be great if I could, but it's the same price for everyone. It's just more work.
Yeah, well, I guess it's much more personal, obviously.
Yeah.
That am I right in saying? It's
Yeah,
just the
definitely.
obvious reason for that. Yeah.
Yep.
And given the amount of time you invest in the wedding space in particular, I guess the question is like, why? Why do weddings when, you know, corporate is more lucrative from a financial point of view and an ease point of view in terms of time and resource?
Yeah.
Because I get pretty pictures and I love creating pretty tables, and the pretty pictures then sell the image to the corporates. So the corporates will just go through the Instagram. I want that on this for 60 tables. How do we do that?
Have you ever had a wedding that may not have been as Instagrammable? And by that I mean some of their ideas and concepts were maybe not down your path.
Are you blaming the bride or the groom or both?
Look,
Either?
I wrote bride in my notes, but I'm too scared to say that. Bride or groom.
There has been quite a few grooms.
Yeah. Mother of the bride.
Mother of the bride, yes. They're the worst. Yes, we do, and that's when I drive my car rather than my branded vehicle. I'm the first to say less is more. You don't need bows on trees, and we've had lots that are very OTT, and it doesn't need that. I'm the first to say to my couples, pick one thing that's important to you and one thing that's important to your fiance, and ignore the rest of the shit on Instagram, because there's so much pressure to have that Instagrammable shot. And I think this sounds really old, but the next generation of couples coming through, they're 25 to 35-year-olds will always be my wedding clientele, and there's a lot of pressure for them to have that image on social media, and I just think it's such a waste of money. I'm in the industry, I run it, but I would not get married. As I did Brad's wedding.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to touch on that.
Look out. In saying that, has social media helped to elevate your business? You talk about, the weddings influencing the corporate and stuff, but, that sort of transition into social media, particularly over the last 10 years, has that really seen a lift in your business?
Huge. The name Event Stylist and Instagram both started around about the same time. And so all of a sudden people wanted all those nice shots. And having a photo of just a venue's crap white tablecloth versus a beautiful weave cloth in a colour, you go from, say, if you've got red flowers on white tablecloth, that looks like a Christmas function. You change the tablecloth and that stays there for the whole time, to, say, a grey or a charcoal. Well, that transforms it straight from Christmas to a corporate. So it's a little thing that you can add, and you get the biggest bang for your buck, really.
It would be tricky, though. I mean, weddings are so expensive. I mean, I've never been married, but I hear they're expensive.
They are, trust me.
Yeah. And so, with couples that are trying to, save a couple of bucks here and there, they're probably going to go down the path of something more simple. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah, but I actually talk to them about things that you can do that can save that buck. So you can have that, if you change the tablecloth, then that transforms the whole space, where a lot of people go, I just want a coloured napkin. I'm like, well, once the guests sit down, those napkins are on your floor or the lap, and you lose all colour on the table. So for that same amount of money, you can transform the whole space and just use the crappy white napkin from the venue. So we talk about that, and we set up, we've got a showroom in Hawthorn, and I've got faux flowers to replicate the client's florist, and I've got hire products, cutlery, crockery, glassware borrowed from social event hire, and stationery, and it just helps them actually visualise the whole table.
And is that how you work with some of those suppliers in terms of being able to paint that full picture, particularly for the those that aren't visual or those that don't do it day to day that are unable to visualise it in their heads?
I thought I was normal, and I can visualise a full table and a full renovation or full anything. I am abnormal, and you guys are probably the same as me. I'd just say 95% of people actually can't visualise that. And I had no idea that they couldn't do that.
And it's one of the challenges, I think, trying to communicate your vision, because when you can visualise it, it does make a lot more sense. And I guess, in this industry, we do that.
Yeah.
But those that are coming in and out, but again, particularly those that are getting married and the weddings and stuff that are one-off, and it's the most important part of their important day of their lives.
Outdoor setting, especially, you talk about trying to visualise. Rooms are not, I don't want to say room's a room because it's not, but an outdoor setting especially, that's a blank canvas that you're working with. So you do have to create the flow and the look that you're probably very involved in. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. But then, depending on if it is a wedding outdoors in Melbourne, you've got five seasons. Did you know we had a fifth? 4 seasons one day. If you don't have that backup plan, so we need to actually take that into consideration as well, that if it does rain, where are we moving all this to?
Yeah.
And that style also has to look right in that space.
And resonate,
Yeah.
How do you keep up with the trends being such a niche business?
So table linen trends actually, for weddings and events trends, looks-wise, follows homewares. And homewares actually follows fashion. So you can actually see it from fashion's probably 18 months before, and then it's homewares. And you go into a homeware shop and you can see a pop of lemon in homewares in the blankets, or dark green, and all those colours are actually now coming through this year for weddings. And therefore events, really. So I can actually see that just in the shops. And so I will go, okay, I need a lemon tablecloth and I need a dark green tablecloth, and just be ready.
Do you keep an eye on, say, Spring Carnival, which is about to come up, and in line with what you're saying now as far as colour schemes at work?
Yeah, we've got Moonee Valley Cox Plate this week.
Yep.
And I've made them all new tablecloths for, we've got a sister brand called The Naperer, and we do sewing for venues. So we've just sewn, they wanted all bright florals and stripes, and all these things are coming back in fashion again. And I've now been around long enough that I'm seeing fashion come back, which horrifies me, that I've been around for that long, not the fashion that is coming back in. But people actually want clashing prints and all these things that I'm excited about, because I'm very much into...
It's edgy, right?
Yeah. And play with colour. Where when I'm dealing with so many weddings, it's a lot of white and neutral. So when I get to play with bright fabrics and prints and clashing, I'm like, yes, thanks.
Why do you think people come to you as opposed to an event hire company that has a linen section?
I think because it's my one specialty, and I learnt very early on, I just wanted to be small and boutique, and I wanted to be approachable. I understand how to set a table. I understand the business from all different directions, really, and I can take that into account. Where a business that does have table linen within it, they don't have they have the money to put into a lot of tablecloths, but they don't necessarily have the experience of a salesperson who actually knows how to do it and has spent that time doing it. I think that makes a huge difference. And funny enough, the people who do have that in-house linen, we know who we're talking about, they actually recommend us, which is really lovely. And the industry is very supportive. And I won't make a product that someone else has. So if someone rings me and says, hey, do you have this? I'm like, no, but Harry the Hirer has, or Decorit has, or, I actually send them to the right place, because I'd rather just, one, share the love, and two, I just think copying each other is a waste of time and money.
Probably comes back too, right, Allie?
Yeah.
As in, Decorit, Fiona, and now Billy, like they're great people. So
awesome. Yeah. And we all actually share information and, hey, what do you do when this happens?
Yeah.
Like, it's not I don't think it is it's competitive, but it's not brutal. Is that the word? I don't know.
No, I think
we help each other out. We do. And we
think
sub-high from each other too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I guess touching on that and some of your competitors and not competitors, peers. So tell us a bit about the processes around stock volumes and the maintenance and cleaning and is this something that you even touch on with the Decorits and Harrys and things like that, around how to really manage that process? Because you're a small business.
Yeah. So I pre-test all my fabrics with curry, oil, grease, wax, and texture. If I can't get these things out in the wash, and we've started our own industrial laundry 2 weeks ago, just for the fun of it.
As you do.
As you do.
You'll drop a basket down there.
I wasn't busy enough. Yeah.
I want to see you guys pouring curry on things and all the wax and things. That would be funny.
It's not as glamorous. It's in my kitchen at home. And then I check whether or not it washes, because if it doesn't wash, it's not going to survive the events industry.
Of course. Yeah.
So, yes, Harry the Hirer did ring me. Mel Healy rang me going, they want this, the style, their creatives wanted a particular product. I'm like, it's not going to survive. Just don't go down that way. So we do actually talk practicality.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And operationally for you, I mean, you talk about having a laundry and all these different things. Again, as a small business, what's that process like from, okay, stock goes out, it goes to an event, how heavily involved are you in that? And then what's the flow of work like operationally when it comes back the other way?
We're still working that out.
Yeah. 17 years and still going, as we do.
Yeah. All
Never
policies
perfect.
and procedures, with this new business. We would probably have 40% of jobs, like we've got 49 jobs this week, I think, and we've got, say, 40% of them clients come and pick up and then return 5 days later. So we offer a 5-day hire period. We make sure that there's enough time to get it laundered, whether or not that's an external laundry or our now in-house one, pressed, checked, everything, and back out again. So with deliveries as well, we did a lot of interstate work, and that gets the process of 5 days goes to shit when that happens, because TNT loses the boxes or it gets caught up at the docks or something like that.
But just your stocks as well.
Yeah, and it grows mould. So we then have to, we're laundering it, but then that goes out. It's not available for a client for next week because it's covered in mould because it was stuck in the docks. So things like that.
How do you make a decision on the volume of stock? Like, okay, how many am I going to produce of a particular type, and when am I going to, make new ones to go into that stock versus go down another line?
Because we have in-house sewing rooms, we order a lot of fabric to have ready to go. So if someone needs a last minute, if numbers go up, I can whip up a tablecloth. Not me personally. No idea.
I was going to say, you said you don't sew.
Yeah, I don't sew. No, I have no idea. I watch them and I provide coffees for the seamstresses because I have no idea. So I know in Victoria, in Melbourne, we generally do a lot of long tables, except in function centres that have the rounds. So it just depends on if a tablecloth is really designed mainly for weddings or mainly for corporates. So say a navy will go out all footy season. Yeah, so we work with all the footy clubs and they just want an overlay. So a 2.3 metre square overlay that will go over their round tables. It doesn't have to go to the floor. They don't mind. They just want to bring in the colour of the club and that just sets the room. Where a wedding, they want the linen to go to the floor. Generally, we do a lot of long tables. Yeah, it just depends. But I will have fabric on hand to grow that.
From what I know of you, something that we have in common, I guess, to our detriment maybe, is our accessibility. And by that, I mean, we're always contactable. We're small business owners, but we make it work. We just do what we have to do, make it work. But has there been any like odd or awkward scenarios where you've had to leave a place or something, and in order to do this last minute job? I mean, I've left shows before or part. You know what I mean? I've had to leave things before. Have you ever had to just drop what you're doing in an awkward situation in order to cater for one of these requests?
I can't think of awkward. I used to live above my shop. So I'd be asleep and people would just come and knock on the front door going, oh, we've got an emergency. It's like it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my 90. But yes, I will help you.
Knocking on your front door.
Yeah,
wow.
because they knew I lived upstairs. So the best thing I could do was move away.
Did you ever charge what I consider a 5 a.m. fuckery fee? For,
We got a client send me a text the other day going, so I'm hoping to do the pickup at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Be on the doorstep, drive past and pick it up. Thanks very much. So
exactly.
So,
The drive, I actually leave a lot on my veranda. Yeah.
So, and look, to Allie's credit, I mean, I've been in a situation where I've had to ring and say, hey, we're down a couple of numbers, or more importantly, they've added 3 more tables. Is there any chance we can get that particular linen down here? And to your credit, I mean, it's something you've always been great at, and you are too, Buzz, but it's like, it's in the taxi, or I've got someone swinging by, they'll be there in 30 minutes or whatever, I'll meet you out the front and just make it happen. I mean, that's the nature of events, but you still got to do it.
Yeah.
My kid comes to work every weekend and just puts, one tablecloth in an Uber and off it goes. So, we do. I'm very aware that stuff-ups happen, whether or not it's our end or whether or not it's the client end. It doesn't matter. I still need to fix the problem and I want to be accessible because that's our industry.
49 events in a week, that's a lot of events to do, with a small team again. Yeah. So, and thinking about your team in particular, I mean, you've had some of the team members have been there for a number of years and are very dedicated in that. is it a challenge to find people that are interested in your business, and how do you go about that process? Because again, we come back to that niche term, but it's it's not like you're going to work for some big glamorous agency or something along those lines. It's a particular skill set that you would need as well.
I've learnt to employ on personality. I've employed on skills, and it doesn't work. If you are a go-getter, if you can go and just learn quickly, own your mistakes, that's a big thing with me, because things happen. They can't count to 50 napkins. Well, you wouldn't believe how many times that happens. But I can train someone with a lot of personality, who is approachable and who is a go-getter. So I've got a great new gun. Her name's Elise, and she is sales and admin manager. And she was away in Queensland this week doing sales calls, and I was on the phones and emails yesterday, and I was up to something like 70 emails. She has it under 10 every day. Like, she gets it done.
She deletes them. That's it. No.
Maybe that's it. But I did send her a text going, "You're never, ever leaving me, ever again." Yeah, but she came in with no experience whatsoever, and I trained her, and she's a gun.
What do you think the attraction to your business was for her?
It looks nice on Instagram. The reality of it is very different.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that around people coming thinking it is this glamorous lifestyle, but this is a hands dirty job. Yeah.
And people don't understand that. Like, we're picking wax off tablecloths and food, and it smells like after a weekend of footy at, Carlton versus Collingwood. That stinks.
So if anyone wants to come and work, this is
Please, we've got positions available in our laundry. Yeah, but it is dirty, and we all do it. We all put the bins out. We all pick wax off linen. That's the reality of it. And I think if you come into this industry thinking that we're sipping champagne, it just doesn't happen. Although I do remember working on a Peter Jones job, and my dad was helping me bump out. I don't even know what it was, but yeah, free labour with Dad. And they were running late, and Peter Jones said, just go into the green room and there's a cheese platter and wine. And Dad's like, do you get this at all the bump outs? I'm like, never. No. And Dad's like, wow, this is a great industry. I'm like, no.
Yeah, come back next week. It'll be totally different.
PJ won't be offering cheese. He'll be barking orders.
Hey, if running one successful business wasn't enough, you opened the Napier in 2021.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about this and how it differs from table art event hire.
We're in COVID, and I was rocking in a corner basically, and had run out of money. And there was a tender from Centrepiece, Melbourne Olympic Park. And quite a few people sent it to me because I was really the only one who was doing table linen. And so I did my first government tender, and I haven't written that much since high school.
First
or
and
uni.
last?
This is before ChatGPT too. How did you do a government tender?
I know.
Yeah.
I got a lot of
Sorry, am I
friends.
giving away secrets?
Yeah.
Shh.
I've got one now. I can just cut and paste. And I got the tender and just went, yeah, I can make tablecloths. It's fine. That's what we do. But we were doing it through our laundry. At the time was doing it. The laundry has now gone, finished. And so we won this tender, and I knew what fabrics they were interested in. I had relationships there. And then they said, oh, yeah, you're the only one that tendered. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't have to write all those 3,000 words.
You still got to do the work, though, and do the job.
Yeah. So we got that in COVID, and I had nothing else to do. It saved me. In hindsight, I've learned a lot because the profitability probably wasn't where it should have been, but it rescued me mentally and, financially.
Good on you, though. That's a great story. And that whole venue had all sorts of complications and challenges because of the timing of when they were going to open. So to have people like you come in and help them with the produce what needed to be produced, that's awesome.
So that was a great learning, really just single swim, and I'm just going to make it happen. And it was a natural progression to go into that. And so we've expanded that business to now do other hire businesses around Australia and other venues. So it is cutting off my nose to spite my face for the hiring.
I was going to say, you're selling it into venues versus you're going to hire it.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, just one quick one with the tender. So, and in line with what Brad was asking, did you put the tender through as this new entity, or like how did that?
No, I did it as a part of table art, but then we started.
And then it
The
turned
yeah.
into, okay.
Like 2 weeks later, I started
Gotcha.
the Neighbourer. Yeah, we'll just start a new business. So yes, I am cutting off my nose to spite my face, but it's businesses like Sophia at Atlantic's venue and the Trust with Nudo and Hubert Estate. Like we've made all their tablecloths. They're never going to hire table linen every single day. And there's a huge push for venues to have an offering as their standard packaging that's better than the crap white stuff that doesn't go to the floor. And
got white, got black, nothing else. Like, okay, what else you got?
So that's been really great that we've been able to grow that side of the business. And now that really does elevate those businesses from their competitors. So we've grown that, and we've doing some event hire businesses in Sydney as well. So that's good that I now know who to recommend in Sydney rather than us sending our linen up via TNT and it getting lost and getting mouldy because it takes so long to get back.
Yep. And coming back to the trend thing, I guess the opportunity there, correct me if I'm wrong, is to say, well, okay, well, we've got a trend here and I've given you these linen or sold you this linen for, and that's going to last 3 years, 5 years, whatever that timeline looks like. But then you can go back again. So a new trend and you've got another opportunity to sell in again and continue. So whilst it's not higher and which is quick churn and burn, it's more a long-term
they'll come back.
Churn, So
they get injured, So we get holes. I mean, the venues all get holes, burn marks and things, and then we'll cut them down into napkins. Curry that does not come, that magical curry that I didn't know about. So we'll cut them down for them and they can use them for other things.
Did you feel that this rejuvenated you a little bit as well? Having run a business for so long and it's, you love it obviously, but it is one thing, it's a product. So did this kind of, provide another avenue for you to be like, all right, cool, I can do something else? And
I didn't have enough to do. I'm a solo mum, and
liar.
no, it does. And learning a new skill. Like I didn't know sewing. Like I had outsourced it always, so I had to learn a lot. And we were interviewing I've got a general manager who is amazing as well. And she and I were interviewing for seamstresses, but we didn't even know what questions to ask. Like it was so unprofessional. I'm like, you know how to sew? Okay, good. So we've had a very steep learning curve, but it's worked. And to have that in-house is just huge.
How do you go now with someone that is so busy and so accessible? How do you go about managing your time between the two businesses and your focus?
Very badly, Brad. I have a lot of to-do lists. And I do go between each business. I'll go like, okay, today I'm focusing on Table Art Queensland, and I will really do a full day of just sourcing business and getting new product. And I do have to keep moving those hats. But in events, like things change. So the to-do list and the priority list is constantly updating every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah. So you have to go, and I'm like, okay, now we've shifted over to a new software program. Okay, I need to get all this uploaded because the accountant needs this. Like it is about going, okay, I'm going to do 2 things from this business and 2 things from that business. It's not that practical, but the mental load is such a new term, but it is real. Yeah, it's hard.
Have you ever done any work overseas or thought about taking the business overseas?
No, Brad, no, I have not.
Do you take any influences from overseas companies?
You don't have enough on.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably look into
it. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Particularly mainly in weddings. There's a lot of photos in America and Spain and Italy, actually, but much the same trends. It's really funny.
The difference is you'll get paid in USD. You can bring that home. Okay, that's
true. Yeah. If I ever have some spare time, I will. But no, I'm happy with Australia. I think we're pretty lucky here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time for Buzz's rapid fire questions.
Okay.
We're there.
Go for it, Buzz.
I know.
Buzz, it's over to you, mate.
All right, you ready?
Yep, go for it.
Quick answers. I love this first question, by the way. Has anyone ever trashed the shit out of a room that you've set?
Chocolate fountain. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What?
And I had to hold my dog back, like we were counting the dirty linen at the end, and there was this chocolate fountain. It was clear that it was a chocolate fountain. I've got a photo. It's about 3 meters worth of chocolate on this massive table, and my dog was just trying to lick it. And I'm like, I understand, but no, that's gross.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wasn't
Chocolate
expecting
everywhere.
that.
Yeah.
Chocolate. What's the most difficult job that you've taken on?
difficult clients maybe. But
Can you give us a story on one
yeah.
without naming names?
Let me guess, a wedding.
yeah, a wedding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wedding.
I've got lots of weddings stories. There was one. It was March last year, and we'd just come through COVID, and we'd been slammed.
Yeah.
So we tripled last year, our best year prior. A client had lost all these napkins. It was a white napkin. And I rang this woman. I said, look, we don't have enough because this other client has lost 100 napkins. We're going to have to replace it with another white napkin. She came in, she said, you've ruined my wedding. And
It's a white napkin.
yeah. And I said, do you know there's like a war going on and starving people in the world, and your wedding is not the priority? And I could see my staff just shrinking down it, but I just
Ellie,
had
pleasure.
enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I offered to just give her money back and just please go to someone else. I do not have the mental space to deal with.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great answer. That's awesome. Okay. Do you have any advice for a young person wanting to make their mark on the world of event theming and design that you do, or linen specifically?
Yeah. Trust your gut. Learn basic hospitality skills.
Yes.
And go back into hospo. Like it's awesome. I
is,
love
isn't it?
hospo. I actually really miss it. I probably couldn't physically do it anymore, but I loved it. And then there was always the quote that I loved, don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel, stride down there and light the bloody thing yourself. And that's true. Like there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, I should, oh, I don't know. Just go do it.
fucking do it,
Stop
yeah.
talking about it. Get off your ass and go do it.
Okay. What's the next trend to look out for?
Funny enough, in table linen, florals are back in. So
Oh, floral
the
linen.
really strong print linen, which I can't get in wide width, which I know sounds so ridiculous, but people want linen to go to the floor and they don't want seams, joining seams. So it's looking like I'm going to have to print on a fabric. Print a print. Find a nice print.
I know what you mean.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So I understand that you designed the you worked with Brad on his wedding.
Oh, no.
What was he like?
Where are
was
you
he
going with
Was he
this?
difficult? Was he one of those
It's
people?
very low maintenance.
Come on, give me something.
Just say that because I'm sitting over here.
Do you know, all I remember, this sounds terrible, is he had these awesome cupcakes and I had 3 and I felt really guilty that I ate from his cupcake display.
I wondered where they went all these years later.
Your
So,
guests that were like, where's
There were 3
three
short.
guests that missed out on
Yeah.
cakes.
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
ate his
Plenty to go
cupcakes.
around. We like to look after the crew. So,
And final one from me is, what do you love doing in your spare time? When you have a bit of Allie time.
I'm going to a wine bar with the girls tonight. I cannot wait.
Yeah, great answer.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
I also have started embracing red light saunas and I love it. Yeah, so that calms me down
Okay.
for a good half an hour and then I'm back being a parent again.
does that just allow you to step out of the world and sort of just focus in?
I listen to a podcast, funny enough.
Got
Yeah.
a great one for you.
Yeah.
So,
I hear. Yeah, so I sit in the sauna and just sweat out the stress. Yeah.
that's awesome. A tradition we've started this season on An Eventful Life, and that is we've asked the previous guest to leave the next guest a question without knowing who they are.
Oh.
So today's question for you, if you can change one decision in your career, what would that be?
One decision I would change would be buying that $30,000 worth of linen from the French Riviera that died after one Indian wedding. I don't know. That's all I can remember.
So the French don't test curry, is that what
No.
you're
They
saying?
don't pre-test. No, it will not
It's a little
survive
more
the events
delicate in
industry.
France. They're a little more delicate.
Yeah, that's all I can think of. I've been very lucky. Very
good.
little regret.
That's
yeah.
good.
That's great. Great way to be.
Oh, yay. Okay, good.
Hey, Allie, thanks for joining us on An Eventful Life. It's been amazing to hear your story, and it's great to sit down and actually have a chat about your world. And I know it's a bit of a whirlwind, and you go. So we really appreciate your time and being able to share so much with our listeners.
Oh, for sure. Like our listeners probably don't know a lot about this world. I mean, I didn't. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and journey and it's just general stories and having fun with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm honoured.
Pleasure. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of An Eventful Life. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. It makes a huge difference to us. And don't forget you can also find us on our new YouTube channel.
This show is for you, our listeners. Our aim is to bring you the most in-depth conversations and life experiences from the event industry. So if you have any feedback, suggestions on guests you would like us to interview on the show, please reach out to us through our social media channels. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane.
See you next time on An Eventful Life.